The views expressed on the Warren and Bradley Show are not necessarily those held by the hosts, Warren and Bradley, nor those of the proprietors of the website, warrenandbradley.com.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, fire!
Let's make some magic.
It is magic time. Hello, and welcome once again to the Warren and Bradley Show, episode 28. I'm one of your hosts, Bradley Victor.
I'm the other host, Warren Van.
Yes, indeed, Warren. It has been, 10 days since we last convened to record this show?
It has been quite a while.
I think it's the longest we've ever gone between, so we should have lots to talk about.
You'd think.
In the intervening 10 days. So you went, we didn't record last Sunday because you went to Eastern Washington for Memorial Day weekend.
I did.
How was the trip?
The reputation of Spokane was that it was kind of methy and not so nice.
Yeah.
And that turned out to be accurate.
It was.
Yeah, it's not nice. And it was, it sort of felt abandoned. Everyone looked a little bit haggard. We couldn't really find a place to eat because everything was closed on Saturday.
Weird.
It was really weird, yeah.
So what, is there like a city center or is it all just
like
kind
a downtown
of a sprawling,
area.
Like...
That's where we were. We were in the sort of downtown area, which sort of looked like a big city, but there was just no one there.
Uh-huh.
And, we found like a sports bar and a hamburger. And some woman told us stories about drunk drivers like crashing outside the bar. And we were like, oh, this is great. Sounds like a nice town. And then the wait staff was like discussing all the children they have. And they were all very young themselves. Mm-hmm. And we got very like judgy about them. And then we left. Yeah.
So what about Walla Walla?
Walla Walla was quaint. Right? Walla Walla was actually, it was a pretty nice town. There was like ice cream shops and like places for people to drink wine and stuff. We did actually go to a winery.
Okay.
One on Memorial Day too, and that was all very classy. Looking over rolling hills, drinking like white wine, and yeah.
I've never had any Washington wines. I don't think. Are any good? I mean,
we produce a lot of wine now, so I guess some of them must be good. Yeah. I can't really tell the difference between good wine and bad wine. I don't know. It just tastes like wine to me. I like the white wine better because it's less. I don't know. I don't like the red wine flavor as much.
I don't know. I can't remember who I ever heard this from, but I completely agree in terms of... I think it was Dylan Moran, this Irish comedian, was talking about wine snobs and how his criteria for judging wine is if you take a sip and go, or if you take a sip and go, ugh. Yeah. And that's basically me, too.
Well, people like to make it more complicated than it needs to be, right?
Yeah, there's some earthy undertones and some,
Well, who's the Freakonomics guy? He did something about this years ago. And they had some wine tasting club at Harvard or something that they all considered themselves to be very intelligent about their wine tasting ability. And they did something where he switched them up and made them look like assholes, basically.
That always happens.
And they got very defensive. At a certain point, it just gets... When it gets very high end, it just gets kind of ridiculous.
Yeah.
And it just gets to be conspicuous consumption at that point.
I mean, I think you can tell the difference between like Kamchatka vodka, which comes in the big gallon screw cap bottle, and maybe like, I don't even know what good vodka is. Grey Goose. That's not that good.
I don't think that's that good.
No.
What's the finest vodka available?
I have no fucking idea.
I don't know either.
Yeah.
Is there a fine vodka? I guess there is, right? There's the really like...
Yeah. See, with vodka, it's easy because it's just how filtered it is, basically, or how pure it is.
It's just basically alcohol, right?
Yeah. It's just when it's pure alcohol, you don't really taste anything. It's just kind of...
What about with like whiskey? Can you tell the difference between like your Jim Beam and like some Johnny Walker Blue?
Yeah. I can tell. I mean, I hate Jim Beam, but I drink it a lot because it's cheap.
Does the Johnny Walker just hurt your like throat less? Is that what makes it good?
It's the difference between like when I have Jim Beam, I'm not going to take a little glass and just sip it. I'm just going to take a shot, or I'm going to use it in mixed drinks. If I have something like Jameson or something, then I'll be able to sip that because it doesn't make me gag when I drink it. That's basically the difference on my level of sophistication with whiskey. If I drink it and gag, it's not very good, and if I drink it and go, it's okay.
Yeah, I think I've developed like a good taste for maybe hamburgers. I can like tell, you know what I mean? I can tell if I have a really good hamburger and be like, that's a fine burger.
Warren Van, the foremost hamburger expert.
You know what I mean? But if you give me a couple wines, I won't be able to tell you.
Yeah. I don't drink a lot of wine. I don't drink a lot of alcohol in general, really. I mean, when I go out, there's people who sit around at home. They come home from work and they'll have their glass of scotch or
Yeah.
something like that. I never do that. I don't drink unless I go out. And when I'm out, I'm drinking something cheap because I just want quantity over quality, and I don't really
Ease
give
the
a shit.
pain. Yeah. But the idea of like you see in movies or something, somebody just going home to their wood-lined like library, and somebody else sitting there in their fine leather couch, and they give them like some drink and they kind of sip it there. Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah,
I could do that, but I mean, I could be doing that with like Fresca, and I mean, it'd be the same to me. I'd just kind of be relaxing to be drinking this thing.
Well, there was a time when I had considered trying to get myself a little home bar, with like the wood paneled thing with the mirror and like the decanters and stuff. I actually have one crystal whiskey decanter. Like, yeah, that'd be cool. But I never have anyone over.
Yeah.
And I never drink alone, so it'd be completely pointless.
Yeah, I guess you have to really be into entertaining to do that. And I don't like to entertain because you can't get people at your house sometimes.
I just like the idea of me sitting around, in a smoking jacket reading the newspaper or something, and then somebody knocks on the door and it's some friend or like former lover or something, and they're in some high dudgeon. They come in and go, oh, and they take the crystal decanter lid off and pour themselves a big slug of whiskey and shoot it back. And I'm like, sit down. Yeah, tell me what's wrong.
Yeah.
But that's not going to happen.
That's not going to happen. If you were a detective, maybe.
Maybe. Yeah.
To be a detective. God, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, all you do is take pictures of people having sex with other people.
It'd be interesting.
Maybe.
Yeah. Break a lot of hearts.
It's not going to be a Chinatown kind of thing where you get involved in some big conspiracy and
get your nose cut up.
Yeah, I was just about to say that.
Yeah, I guess that looks like quite an adventure, but it was probably a very stressful time for Jack Nicholson's character in that
He didn't
movie.
look like he was enjoying it.
No, he was getting really stressed out. And then he was like slapping Faye Dunaway. Tell me the truth. And
she's my sister.
Yeah.
My daughter.
Oh, what a great movie that, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a good movie.
Yeah.
Oh, so last week I was in a bad mood.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
And several people have mentioned, like, Jesus, you're getting so misanthropic lately and everything. And so I tried, in the intervening 10 days since we recorded the last episode, I've been trying to put myself in a little bit of a better mood just by not dwelling on annoyances and things that people do. And so, for example, today I was wandering around. I was trying to see the lighter side of things. And just sitting out front of the bagelry, drinking coffee and watching people go by, I had, there was the one couple with the shave-headed, goateed, neck-tattooed, gauged ear, like, creepy guy walking by with his fat, tattooed girlfriend.
Yeah.
And there was one of those hot little college girls with the yoga pants walking by in the opposite direction.
Man.
And he gave the most blatant, like, look to this girl as she walked by. And his girlfriend went, ba-bam, and slapped him on the face. She's like, you keep your eyes to yourself. And he's like, and you rattled my head. And then she's like, your eyes need to look at me. And she pointed to her boobs.
Oh.
And if I were him, I probably would have like thrown up a little bit in my mouth.
Yeah.
If that image had suddenly been thrust upon me. It was one of those examples where a woman who, by all accounts, should be completely hiding her body in shame is way too open and way too comfortable with her own body. Like, everyone always talks about how you should be comfortable within your own skin and celebrate diversity and difference and, every body shape is fine. No. There are some people who should cover up from head to toe, and if I were in charge...
You would cover them?
Well, I would make sure I wouldn't want to get that close. That always happened in L.A. It seemed like the lower you were on the socioeconomic scale, the fatter you were, and the more likely you were to wear a halter top.
Yeah. Well, it's also the, like, uglier you are and the, like, more shrew-like you are, the more you're liable to talk about how everyone's trying to get with you all the time. And,
right.
Yelling it from the mountaintops.
But people do, is the weird thing. Like, I don't understand. I mean, I guess it works out because the dregs hang out with the dregs and they fornicate with each other, and I mean they have to fornicate with somebody.
Yes.
But because I see a lot of, like, the couple that I saw today, obviously the guy was a fucking hetero weirdo, but he was thin and reasonably okay, but his girlfriend was just hideous.
I don't know, it might get back to the whole, like, wine thing, right?
Yeah.
Maybe he's just not a high taster.
Yeah.
In women.
See, people talk about that with men, how men will, they'll have sex with anything with legs, and it's like, I guess the crew we hang out with isn't really like that, but there are plenty of men who, if somebody is willing to have sex with them, they will have sex.
Yes.
Regardless of their appearance.
Yes. That happens out there.
And maybe that's my problem, is that I just have way too high of standards when it comes to...
maybe. You know what I mean? You're just always looking for the perfect one.
But do you want a piece of steak so badly that you're willing to eat a rotten, disgusting piece of steak?
It depends if you're starving.
I mean, isn't it worse? Yeah, but yeah.
If you would strip away everything you've learned over your life and just get back to like biological Brad the entity that wants to reproduce all the time, you would be that person too.
No, I don't think so, because I mean, we've discussed before how sometimes I'm oddly not attracted to people who are attractive. If I'm not feeling it, it's not going to happen. I'm not going to be into it.
But why do you think you're not feeling it? Do you think that's the biology, or do you think
I think it is. I think there's just some weird combination of appearance and pheromones or something, and I go, ugh.
Maybe I think it's hard to separate out what part is what there.
What's society and what isn't.
Yeah.
Well, because people always talk about society as though it's this completely artificial, constructed thing. There's a reason why we have certain likes and dislikes. It didn't just appear in a vacuum.
Yeah. We created our society in a sense. Yeah.
It evolved from nature. I also saw this just amazingly attractive girl walking by with one of those white guys who thinks he's an African American.
Oh, yeah.
You know, he had the whole ensemble going. He even did that. Okay, what the fuck is the limping walk?
Yeah.
Why is this macho cool thing? Talking about nature and evolution and biology, why would that be considered attractive? If you were a woman looking for a prospective mate and you saw somebody who looked like they had a gimpy leg because they were doing that weird half limp walk thing, isn't that something that should signal that they are not, you know, a good candidate for mating?
What do you think
reproduction?
The origins of that are?
I have no fucking idea.
Because I can think back to it like pimps walking around like that, right? If you see like footage of them, that's what they're doing.
Like the strut, though. It was a more like aggressive kind of.
But I think maybe it's an evolution of the strut.
I don't know. It just looks like one of their legs is dead, and they're kind of dragging it along the sidewalk. It doesn't make any sense to me. It's really fucking weird.
It's weird. I don't know what the appeal of that is or what it is, but it is showing that you're like part of this thing, right? You're part of this like gangsta thing.
You think they could pick something better? Like I don't know. It looks like, look at that gimpy asshole.
Well, it's also a lot of the thing in that culture, though, right? Of people who do that, adopt that sort of aesthetic. It also has to do with adopting a lot of things that are associated with, like, poverty and those things becoming cool. You know what I mean? So
having a gangrenous leg.
Yeah, maybe that's like something. It's like, oh, yeah, this makes me cool. I'm from the hood, you know what I mean? I'm sick. I haven't got proper health care in years.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, so anyway, in my attempt to refresh my mind and have a rosier outlook on the human species was slightly dashed just by watching people wandering around. I've also been having horrible allergies lately.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if you've noticed the cottonwood just everywhere in the air.
I did notice that actually on our way back. I just saw a first couple flakes of it, and I was like, oh, yeah.
It's just like snow falling.
That time of year, it's very intense. There can be lots of it in places. Drifts.
Outside trying to avoid it and just breathing. I had several of those fluffy white seeds go up my nose. I was like, and trying to get them. I was like picking my nose, trying to get these cottonwood seeds out, and then was just sneezing horribly. It's awful.
Well, I see you've done a successful job of looking on the brighter side of things.
Yeah, it's an ongoing process.
I think I feel better about things just reading about other parts of the world. You heard about what's happening in Timbuktu?
No.
Islamists have taken over Timbuktu.
Weren't they always in control of Timbuktu?
No, apparently not. So now they've run out the government. They've got Sharia going on.
Right.
They're beating everybody for wearing short skirts. No one's allowed to have any fun. No one can drink any tea in the streets. It's just a real disaster. And everyone's fleeing Timbuktu, which seems like a place that you would flee to. But now I guess people are leaving.
That was always that's
in the middle of nowhere, right?
Yeah. That was the cliche of, we'll go to Timbuktu.
So that's good when we're not there.
Yeah, it's funny how there's always that weird American quality, or maybe just a Western world thing of now we're not supposed to judge any cultures. But if you really devoutly follow Sharia law, it's horrible. It's awful.
It does seem to be bad.
Yeah. It's completely subservient women. It's brutal violence, and just, it's not good. There's
a bad scene happening in Indonesia right now where Christians are attempting to build churches and being like attacked. You know, it's getting a little...
the whole Islamist spring that we were supposedly having with Egypt and Syria and all this bullshit. It's like, oh, we'll support the rebels in Egypt. And now it's basically the Muslim Brotherhood taking over everything, persecuting Coptic Christians. Like, it's great. There you go. Have fun. We just need to not need oil from those people anymore. And
we got to get out of that.
And just completely ignore them and let them do whatever the fuck they want with each other. They can go back to the year 700 and kill and rape women and do whatever they want, and we'll just leave them alone because it's pointless. The only reason we have anything to do with them is because of oil. And if they want to be murderous barbarians, go ahead and be murderous barbarians.
I tend to agree with the sentiment. And I think a lot of America's coming around to this idea that it's not really worth it to be involved in all these places.
No.
I think we have this conception or this idea based on the Marshall Plan and the successes we had after World War II that we're going to like rebuild every society. That's not happening. They don't want their society. We haven't rebuilt Afghanistan. You know? We haven't rebuilt Iraq. We're probably better off just not being involved with those places any more than we have to be. And it's too bad that people there that want to live in maybe a more open society or a democratic society, perhaps like ours, can't do that. Yeah. But we can always issue statements from the State Department supporting these people, and they can fight their own battles.
But if you think about it, before oil was discovered in the Middle East, they were still living in a tribal society, squabbling amongst themselves, and nobody gave a shit about whatever they did. And it's only since the British discovered oil.
Lawrence of Arabia was running around.
Yeah.
That's what was going on less than 100 years ago. Yeah. And Alec Guinness was down there trying to lead them, and it was quite a different scene than what's happening there now, where it seems to be a bunch of...
No, Sir Lawrence Olivier.
No, Alec Guinness.
It was Alec Guinness was Lawrence of Arabia?
Peter O'Toole was Lawrence
Peter
of Arabia.
O'Toole, yeah.
Alec Guinness was an Arab.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. A little face paint.
Yeah, he pulled it off. He's a very good actor.
Living amongst the sand people. Ooh, a Star Wars reference, and slightly racist.
I've been watching Human Planet. Have you seen this?
Yeah,
a BBC thing?
Yeah.
And they showed the people crossing the Sahara.
Yeah.
And just desperately trying to find this, oasis, or else they would all die.
Yeah, the women in the camel train, yeah.
And then they have the 10-year-old, lead them, 10-year-old woman. And it was funny because they were talking about how, in this culture, the women are the navigators. You know why? Because they navigate by, landmarks.
Right.
You know what I mean? I was like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. Because there are no street signs out there in the Sahara.
Yeah.
You see one dune, you're like, I kind of recognize that dune. And you head right between these two dunes and head over here, and you get to this bush, and there you go. You got some water.
Yeah, we had that's how women are about how supposedly women are better at recognizing landmarks.
But there's got to be a better way to do it.
Men are better at, sense of direction.
I think at some point there's got to be a better way to do it than that. They're heading off across the desert for weeks at a time, then hoping you get to the water hole at the right time, or else you'll die.
Well, if they had a GPS device, then...
Well, yeah, I guess so.
I like the fact I have this weird dichotomy where, in some ways, I completely appreciate modern technology, but at the same time, I'm always pleased when there are societies that still operate as though there is no modern technology. Yeah. Even though they're suffering through weeks of a camel train going through the desert trying to look for water. Yeah. That's not great. But I'm still secretly that's good.
The people who seem like they're having a good time is the people that are hanging out on islands. Yeah. And just eating coconuts and pulling fish out of the water and hanging out. That seems like a pretty good life. Although, did you see the guys with the compression divers?
Oh, yeah. That was horrible. In the Philippines?
Yes, that's terrible.
For those of you who haven't seen Human Planet, I highly recommend it. It's basically a series about the extremes that humans are able to go to survive in the world.
All over the place.
All over the place. And there's one segment where it had these divers in the Philippines who dive... I don't know how far down.
40 meters.
With this rickety old, basically air compressors with a bunch of old tubing connected to it. And they just have it kind of shoved in their mouth. They dive down there and they get these nets, and then they physically herd fish into these nets. And people die constantly and get
people get the bends. And and if this rickety old rusty thing gives out, they're all going to die underwater.
Because you can't just swim up to the surface or you'll die.
No.
Because you've been down there so long. It's awful.
There's no way you could get me to do that.
Yeah, there's no reason why you should.
You know what I mean? You
don't live in the Philippines.
No, I don't live in the Philippines, and I'd probably try to move. If people are trying, you got to be a compression diver.
Yeah.
They wander the streets, scavenging for loose change and discarded cigarette butts. spare $1?
And give me a motherfucking cigarette.
I ran out of gas ways back.
Got any meth? You smoke weed, don't you?
God gives me a car.
I could use some change.
They may be mentally unstable and deserving of our charity, but that doesn't mean they can't be selected as the Warren and Bradley Show Street Freak of the Week.
I had a very... This is an interesting Street Freak of the Week because this wasn't an actual interaction that I had. It was basically just me observing some very odd behavior. And I'm going to show Warren a picture now, and we'll post this picture on our website and on our Facebook page.
Exciting. Yeah.
This is a picture I took of a gentleman outside my window. Give you a look at that, Warren.
Uh-oh.
Now, what's going on there?
Is he bathing?
See, this is what another friend of mine had assumed. Basically, this picture, and you'll be able to see it on the website, there is a shirtless, gray-haired old man sitting by the side of the road, and he's holding a styrofoam cup, and what it looks like in the picture is that he's like investigating his chest or something like that.
Like he might be taking water out of the cup and like splashing on his chest. Yeah.
What was actually going on there is it's much more disturbing.
Uh-oh.
I was doing my little exercises as I do, and as I was throwing the medicine ball around, I happened to glance out the window and saw an old man on the side of the road who looked like he was kind of doing jumping jacks. He was just sort of like kind of gyrating around everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
So I was like, oh, here we go. Got my phone out just in case I need to take a picture or video. And as I watched, he stripped his shirt off. And this was on a cold, rainy day. Like it was probably 50-some degrees.
Yeah, it looks pretty gray out there.
Yeah, and it was raining. He sat down on the side of the road. He picked up a coffee cup. I think he had just been at the drop-in center, which is just down the block where people go and get free food and coffee. He sat down and began plucking chest hairs out of his chest, and placing them in the coffee cup. He was just plucking and plucking and plucking and putting them in the cup until finally he took the cup and drank it down. What the fuck?
On the positive side, I don't think anything bad can happen to him, right?
Until he has some sort of weird intestinal blockage because of the giant
hairball,
gray hairball he's got going on down there.
Ooh,
what kind of weird psychological impulse is that? I mean, is there some... I know people who they pick at their skin incessantly or they do some weird... But to actually ingest your own body hair, is there some sort of strange... I have no idea what kind of psychoses could lead to that.
He's probably not all there.
It was a good 45 minutes of this. I can't believe... I mean, he still had chest hair left. And I don't know how often...
He's got to drink tomorrow, doesn't he?
Well, I don't know how often he harvests this hair and makes his fortifying tonic with it. But it was interesting because then another homeless gentleman came and stood... There's this little rock wall in the picture. And he sat down on the wall and watched the guy plucking hair out of his chest and putting it in the cup and drinking it. And the hair plucker did not even pay any attention. He did not look up, did not acknowledge the presence of this other guy at all.
Yeah.
He was working very diligently. And the guy who was watching didn't seem to think anything of it. He was just smoking a cigarette and watching it like, there's something to do.
Yeah.
And it finally ended. He probably drank about 3 times. He plucked and drank 3 times. This whole cycle was repeated. And then at the end, he just kind of went, brushed his chest off, put his shirt back on, lit a cigarette, and just sat there nonchalantly smoking a cigarette and still drinking the hairy coffee mixture that he had going on there.
Huh.
I mean, most Street Freaks of the Week are, some weird interaction I have where somebody does something crazy, and it's like, ha ha ha, that's hilarious.
This isn't
these funny little homeless people.
This is just a bummer.
This is just kind of weird.
Yeah.
There's no meaning I can take from this. It's just the weird, capricious nature of the universe, exemplified by the hair-plucking homeless man.
Yeah, well, everyone's got to keep busy out there.
Yeah, so I guess I have nothing to add to that.
Yeah, it's just... is what it is, really.
So congratulations, hair-plucking and ingesting homeless person. You've been selected as the Warren and Bradley Show Street Freak of the Week.
Congratulations. Drink up.
Our hats are off to you, Mr. Homeless Man, because you've been selected as the Warren and Bradley Show Street Freak of the Week.
Celebrity Minute on the Warren and Bradley Show.
Very first story of this week, tragic story, Warren.
Uh-oh,
I know this
tragedy.
will affect you because you were a big fan. Voice of Gumby, Dick Beals dies.
You know what? I heard this the other day, and I was a huge fan of Gumby.
Yeah.
I used to watch a lot of Gumby.
I know you did.
I remember I would go get VHS tapes of Gumby from the video store and watch Gumby because I just loved it. I thought it was so weird. But apparently this guy had some sort of medical problem, glandular problem
This is
or
what's
something.
funny about the story, because they talk about how he was this pioneer of voice acting in cartoons. He was this amazing voice actor. But the fact of the matter is, he was 4 foot 6 inches tall, less than 70 pounds, and had a voice that hadn't changed since grade school because he had a glandular
Yes.
condition. He wasn't acting. He was just talking in his normal voice.
He was just, they would give him things and he'd read
Like,
them.
hello, I'm Gumby. And you're like,
Yeah.
okay, that's good, Dick. Why don't you, okay, I'm done. Whoa, Dick, you don't need to do the voice anymore. And it's like, all right. It's not acting. It's just him talking.
And he did the pop, pop, fizz, fizz.
Yeah,
oh,
the
what a
Alka-Seltzer
relief it
commercials.
is.
He also did commercials for Bob's Big Boy. He did Davy and Goliath.
Oh, yeah. Gumby was pretty great, though, don't you
Gumby
think?
was so fucking weird and
It's
surreal.
super weird.
Yeah.
And I thought that was what was really fun about it.
I was just watching an episode, or part of an episode on YouTube after I had read the news, the tragic news, and it was like Gumby on the moon or something, and he was on the moon with some weight belt, and these weird triangles came, and we're going, "Wah, wah, wah." And then Gumby went, "Whoa," and jumped. He took his weight belt off and started leaping around on the moon, and these triangles were like chasing after him. It made no sense whatsoever.
No, it's fantastic.
And at the same time, like, the weird female Gumby was watching him through a telescope, and I don't know what was going on.
It's too bad. I think, nowadays we bring everything back, right?
Yeah.
Everyone's playing with Transformers and Care Bears.
Well, I'm sure there will be a Gumby movie at some point.
There's got to be a Gumby movie. They got to bring Gumby back.
It'll be some live action ridiculous thing with Jim Carrey as Gumby prancing around.
A CGI Gumby with like Chris Tucker. Oh yeah, it'll be great.
This whole voice thing, though, it's kind of like, I remember as a kid, watching some Muppet movie or something and loving Kermit's voice, and like, and then finding out that about Jim Henson, like he was the voice of Kermit, and then seeing an interview with him where he's like, "Hello there, I'm Jim Henson," and I was like, "Oh, okay, that's just his normal voice."
It's less impressive.
Yeah,
You're right.
it's very much less impressive.
But I don't know if you're born with a talent like that,
Or just a disability like that.
like George Mirasan, the very tall like basketball player from the Balkans. He was in that movie with Billy Crystal.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and he had some pituitary problem or
Right.
something. That's why he was 7'8".
Well, Andre the Giant.
Yes.
As well.
I mean, still got the job done, right? It's a talent in a way.
It's kind of just like a modern day freak show where you're not allowed to cage people and put them in the circus sideshow anymore, but you put them in movies.
Make them
And-
perform.
Yeah, like chimps. All right. Speaking of the Islamic world, as we were earlier,
Oh boy.
Turkish pianist charged with insulting Islam.
Uh-oh.
Turkish court on Friday formally charged an internationally known pianist and composer with insulting Islamic religious values in comments he made on Twitter. 42-year-old Faziz Say made a comment on Twitter that said, this is so stupid, "What if there is raki, it's a traditional alcoholic drink, in paradise but not in hell, while there is Chivas Regal scotch in hell and not in paradise? What will happen then? This is the most important question." And of course, this ignited a firestorm of death threats and all sorts of bullshit on Twitter and elsewhere. And now he's facing up to 1.5 years in prison.
Yeah. What? In Turkey?
Yeah.
Oh, Turkey.
Turkey's trying to get into the EU. This isn't the way to do it.
They've lost their way from their secular roots that they founded the country on. It's too bad.
Yeah. Apparently in Turkey, they also had a Nobel laureate, Orhan Pamuk, who had been prosecuted for his comments about the mass killings of Armenians.
So he's that Armenian
he was
genocide.
prosecuted under a law that makes it a crime to insult the Turkish identity.
Yeah.
In 2007, ethnic Armenian journalist Hrant Dink, who received death threats because of his comments about the killing of Armenians by Turks in 1915, was shot dead outside his office in Istanbul.
Well, in France, I believe it is now illegal to deny the Armenian genocide.
It is, which, Europe in so many ways.
So, but if you head over to Turkey and you say what you just said in France, you'll be arrested. So you got to change your story based on what country you're in.
It is kind of creepy that France has had even in England, they don't have the free speech rights that we do.
It's a problem.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of free speech, Jason Alexander apologizes for gay cricket remark.
Whoa.
This is another example of a celebrity making an off-end comment, and then the sensitivity police or the professionally offended assholes go crazy, and then they're forced to give a bullshit apology that they don't really mean, but they have to pretend that they mean it, so it will quell the firestorm.
Is this about an actual cricket or the game of cricket?
It's about the game of cricket.
Okay.
He made some remarks on... it doesn't say what talk show. He was on a talk show and said something about how he considers cricket to be a gay sport or something, some offhand comment. And then it just ignited controversy. Oh my God, this anti-homosexual, completely homophobic, horrible remark.
It was homophobic here, but in like London, I'm sure they consider it an insult to cricket. You know,
Right.
So depending on what country you're in, I'm sure you're insulting somebody.
So then in a blog post, he explained that he writes that he at first didn't grasp why some might object to the comment, but that subsequent conversations with his gay friends, everyone always has these mythical gay friends.
Oh,
who
black
talk-
friends,
who-
gay friends.
Yeah, who tell them how
Muslim
to be sensitive.
friends, they're all over the place.
Led him to realize his insensitivity. I just hate this thing in our society now where people are constantly offended by everything, and they're not really offended. They just decide that they're going to get angry about some stupid... My whole thing is that it's impossible to offend me. If somebody were to come up to me and say, I hate you, you're an asshole, or yelling fag at me out of cars, as happens often... Why would that offend me? Because obviously anybody who does that is an idiot or a dick. And why would an idiot or a dick's opinion matter to me whatsoever? It's just this idea of constantly being offended all the time. People, and then this idea of demanding an apology. Why is an apology important when it comes from the barrel of a gun, basically? It's like... let me do some soul searching and speak to my gay friends, and they'll talk about how insensitive I was, and then I'll explain how I didn't mean any offense, and blah, 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 and I should have known better. He says that his remarks played into hurtful assumptions and diminishments about people, and that he should have known better. It's just shut the fuck up.
What about it exactly was so offensive?
I don't know. Like
Yeah, you get down to it.
using gay as a pejorative, I guess. Like, cricket is gay.
Maybe-
But can't you just say that cricket is gay?
No.
No.
No, you can't. I
But
guess.
maybe you could mean it as a non-pejorative thing, like wearing leather chaps with no ass is gay. Isn't that just a declarative statement?
But that is gay.
Well, yeah, but maybe Jason Alexander thinks that cricket is just literally a gay sport, and doesn't mean it in a pejorative sense. He just means
Maybe he's just ignorant about the nature of cricket.
Maybe.
He thinks it's just a bunch of gay guys getting together, like slapping the old wicket.
yeah. Well, I mean, if you put it that way too, you're slapping the wicket around. I don't know. This is a good one. Zhang Ziyi, known from Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon,
Oh, yeah, I remember her.
House of Flying Daggers, very attractive. Or she was in Memoirs of a Geisha as well. Very beautiful Chinese actress.
Says prostitution allegations are, quote, completely false and defamatory, unquote.
The Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon actress 33 was recently accused of earning $110 million as a prostitute for government officials in China, including
Jesus,
scandal-prone
Mary and Joseph.
including scandal-prone Bo Jilai, former mayor of Zhongqing, an allegation God, I can't, these Chinese names are difficult. Zhang strongly denies. The accusations made against award-winning actress Zhang Ziyi are completely false and defamatory. There is no truth in any of the allegations that have come forth, which are a result of calculated, cruel intentions against a well-respected, established actress. She has been temporarily barred from leaving the country while officials investigate the claims against her.
What? Oh, really? They're investigating it?
Yeah, apparently.
$110 million.
Can you imagine that? Like, for some reason, it's not hard for me to imagine because it's in China.
Well, and the other thing that's going on in China, everyone that's part of the upper echelons of the government there is obscenely wealthy at this point.
This is this weird thing with China is that they have this strange half free market but still government controlled system where it's just a perfect breeding ground for, I mean, communism is amazingly fertile for corruption to begin with, but then when you add a huge amount of capital into that equation, it just makes things much, much worse.
The USSR, the upper echelon had a lot more than everyone else.
Oh, yeah, the Politburo,
they didn't have hundreds of millions of dollars because their economy didn't work, so they couldn't produce those things. With the state sort of capitalism that they have in China now, you have an economy that's producing lots of money, but also a bunch of people that can just take as much of it as they want. And they're ending up with apparently spending $110 million on one prostitute.
It's a recipe for prostitution.
The Boji Lai thing is just amazing, though. I mean, it was completely out of control.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, part of me thinks that this is perfectly plausible. I thought she was married to some film producer, though. I don't know. I can just imagine,
that's the part that you don't think it's unbelievable?
No, that's the thing. I can completely imagine some fat government official with a gun to his head.
It sounds like a ridiculous,
we're taking your wife.
Right, that someone's making up, right?
It does, but I can believe it.
But the other thing is, she must be well off anyways, because she's a big movie star.
Yeah.
She's going to start, like, prostituting herself to Chinese officials for hundreds of millions of dollars? I don't see it happening.
I don't know.
It seems very weird.
Yeah,
but the other thing is that she's not allowed to leave the country?
Yeah. This all is kind of very strange. We'll just have to wait and see if there's any more.
This is an amazing story, though.
Yeah.
Oh, look, she's... The background of the picture she's in has something about the AIDS Foundation.
Wells Fargo, American Wellness.
Yeah.
This is her at the the Elton John AIDS Foundation Academy Awards viewing party at the city of West Hollywood on February 2012.
So she's hanging out at, like, the AIDS party with Elton
she's
John?
very much an international star. I mean, she's been
It seems weird to me that she gets a call, right, from Boji Lai, and he's like, come back over, I'll give you $20 million to have sex with me.
Well, maybe it's the kind of thing where you will have sex with Boji Lai, or we will not let you leave the country, you won't be able to travel internationally.
Oh, my God, can you imagine if that were true?
Yeah.
That's even more scandalous.
Last story. Justin Bieber suffers concussion after walking into glass wall.
Look at that picture.
This is not the first time he has walked into a glass door.
Really?
No.
Oh, that's too bad.
According to TMZ, the 18-year-old singer walked into a glass wall backstage during his concert in Paris on Thursday. He managed to complete his set on stage, but passed out briefly in his dressing room after. They say doctors tell TMZ that he suffered a concussion, but the star says he's fine. This isn't the first time Bieber has hit his head walking into glass. The Baby singer was caught on camera walking into a revolving glass door in May of 2010.
I will say this. Yesterday I was mowing the lawn, and there are some plum trees in front of the house. Mm-hmm. And as I was going into the tree, took a branch, big old branch, right in the head.
I do that occasionally.
Yeah, it was very annoying.
I smacked my head on my medicine cabinet door the other day.
No, really?
Yeah.
Ugh.
I had the medicine cabinet open. I was in the sink washing my face.
Yeah.
And then, yeah.
Huh. Well,
I ran into a screen door when I was a little kid.
Well, we had the screen door. Well, my childhood home, you recall, had like a glass sliding door in the back.
Yeah, I remember. Didn't Charlie run into that?
I believe somebody. I remember somebody running into it really hard at one point, and people almost running into it constantly, trying to run into the house during the summer.
But that's like an 8-year-old.
Yeah. Well, Bieber, I don't know where his emotional intelligence.
Look at this picture. We'll post this picture on the website. He does look a little concussed in that picture. He's a woman. He looks like a woman. If you just put a wig on him and some boobs, he's like, woo, wouldn't kick that out of bed.
Oh, my.
Ugh. All right. So this has been Celebrity Minute on the Warren and Bradley Show.
This has been Celebrity Minute on the Warren and Bradley Show.
All right, I know you've all been waiting for this. Last week you were disappointed, but this week we now have our Beard Off 2012 update.
It's a motherfucking beard off, yo! It's the Warren and Bradley Show, Beard Off 2012. 2 men enter, only one can emerge victorious, as Warren and Bradley pit one set of whiskers against the other in the ultimate test of follicular fortitude. The rules are simple. No trimming, shaving, pruning, or plucking for one entire month, at the end of which we'll find out who's a man and who's a testosterone-deficient ladyboy.
All right, so it's been 3 weeks since the epic Beard Off battle began. Warren, how are you doing there?
I'm better than I was a week ago, maybe. You've got much more of a beard than me.
Well, I'm looking at you now.
This is what I was telling you.
Yeah.
When I do have any sort of beard type thing, people are like, "Oh, look at that! That's a nice little beard. You've had it for a couple weeks." And it's like, no, it's been there for 4 months.
Yeah. So this
takes a long time.
This has been 3 weeks. You've got full goatee mustache coverage. You don't really have anything on the sides at all.
No.
You've got a few little errant hairs.
I don't
there.
even have sideburns. You know what I mean?
You should move to the left so I can see. Oh, yeah. Sideburns are like the first thing you get when you're 14 years
So
old.
everyone tells me. I've never been able to grow sideburns.
That's odd.
Even during the 2-0 era when Luke Perry was running around with the sideburns, I couldn't grow those.
So you could never be an Elvis impersonator.
No,
unless you
I can't
had,
do any of
like,
these things.
Press-on sideburns.
I'm disabled.
Yeah, you are, actually. Maybe
Yeah.
you should get some sort of government grant. My facial hair is growing apace.
Yeah, yours looks more substantial now.
Well, if you can see...
It's very long.
It's
but
very
all-
long, and
Yeah.
it looks kind of patchy, but if you look closely, you can see that all the parts where it looks like it's patchy, there are blonde hairs
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
And it's just really annoying, because there's no middle ground. It's either really blonde hair or really black hair in my beard. It doesn't make any sense to me, because my hair is brown. My beard should be brown, but
Well, if
it's
I look
not.
at you from the angle I'm looking at you now, and you can see the light kind of shining on it, and it shows where the actual hairs are.
Yeah.
The hairs are covering the entire side.
Yeah.
But if you come more to a profile look at you, it does look like there's a huge swath that's missing there.
Yeah,
That's
it's really
just
weird.
blonde, yeah.
That's why I think when we're done with the beard off, I am going to just for men my beard to see how it looks,
God.
get the full effect. But I've been being persecuted for my beard.
Really?
Since this has been happening. Oh yeah. The other night I finally went out. I hadn't gone out in a long time and didn't have a very good time, but got slightly drunk and decided to walk home. And while walking home, this drunken college girl and some of her friends were like, "You're really tall." And
Yeah.
I went, "I'm not that tall." And she's like, "Yeah, I guess not." I'm like, okay, that was apropos of nothing.
Yeah.
And then she went, "You'd be really hot if you didn't have that fucking beard." And then all her friends went, and they laughed. And then I walked home. And then the other day, I was at the bagelry, and this little baby was staring at me. Babies always stare at me
Yeah.
for some reason. But this one was like, la, 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 like reaching out towards me, even though I was like 20 feet away. And then her mother looked over at me and then looked back at her husband, and she thought that I was out of earshot, but she was like, "Oh, he's really looking at that beardo," which is a term that I thought I invented like 10 years ago, the beardo, but apparently it's gotten around. I don't know if it's just been disseminated through my use of the term,
The
but
thing about beardo is that I would think you'd have to have a longer beard than that to be called a beardo.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's weird for you to get called a beardo at
Yeah,
this
I don't
point.
know.
'Cause you just got that scraggly thing on your face. You're just like a scraggly guy.
yeah, it's not helping.
So is it going to come right off after next week?
I don't know. It's almost like after a month's work of hard labor growing
Yeah.
this beard, it almost seems like a shame to just
Yes,
to shave
I think it
right
is.
off.
I think you should just keep going and going and going and going for a while.
I might do the dye thing, the dye job, see
Yeah.
how it looks, and then I might experiment with different odd facial hair combinations.
Just let the whole thing go for a while.
I don't know.
Do that for me.
What's driving me crazy right now is the neck hair. Look at
Yeah.
this. Look at that. It's
Yeah.
ridiculous. I
Yeah,
have a ton of neck hair, and it's
Yeah.
really long. It's almost meeting my like chest hair down
yeah.
below, and it's really itchy, and I just look scruffy and ridiculous. I wish that my rules hadn't been that we couldn't do any trimming at all, because I would totally trim this
Oh, your
neck hair right
does
off.
go a lot down there, doesn't
Yeah,
it? On
it's
the
like
side even.
all
yeah.
the way past my Adam's apple. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, that's weird.
I
Like
don't
a
know.
monster.
But the torture is almost over. We have a little over one more week, and then we'll take our final pictures, and we'll have all the people who have been very excited about Beard Off will vote on the on the best manly virile beard.
I know a lot of people were thinking a lot of momentum was going to be built up by the beard off. Not really.
What are you talking about? We've had so many responses. Just so many that we can't even look at all the pictures
No,
that people have
we
sent
couldn't.
in. It's
You
just
know,
such a daunting task.
It's
Like, oh,
really
God.
all those beards, people
even
with their
gonna
little
bother.
beards. Thank you for participating, but
Yes.
there's only so much we can do.
Thank you so much. By the way, this doesn't have anything to do with Beard Off, but we want people to subscribe on iTunes to the show. I know a lot of people listen to the show through the website, which is fine. That's good.
Yeah.
But there's a link to our iTunes page on the website. If you go there, click on that link, subscribe. It's so much easier for you, and for us, it will help us climb the charts in iTunes, which is what we want to do because we can get more listeners and then subject more people to this.
Features like beard off.
Features like Beard Off, which are just groundbreaking. And if you subscribe on iTunes, or even if you don't subscribe on iTunes, please, for the love of God, rate the show. It's so easy. There's little stars that are non-outlined, or no, they're just outlines of stars. If you hover your mouse over them, go to the 5th star and click it. And that means that we'll get a 5-star rating. And that means that we'll go up in the charts on iTunes. And that
Okay.
means that we'll be happy.
Let me ask you a question.
Yes.
If I give you 10 5-star reviews or 100 4-star reviews? What are you going to take?
I don't want anything that's not 5-star.
All right, I understand.
Nobody. I don't know if my self-esteem could take
Nobody
that.
wants
Maybe.
to put a 2 or a 1 on there.
Maybe.
Break your heart.
So I know we have listeners. We know how many we have. We know that we don't have that many ratings on iTunes. So all of you people who weekly just blithely download the show and listen to it, you get a nice belly laugh. You're basically just stealing from us. You're stealing humor and not giving anything back.
Or whatever. I mean, that's not necessarily
That's a good
humor.
analogy.
No.
Go on iTunes, rate the show, and if you have a little time, write a little review too. We'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Maybe you should go on and review the show.
I didn't review it, but I rated it.
Did you really?
I gave it 5 stars.
5 stars?
Oh, yeah.
Huh, maybe I should do that.
You should.
I don't know. I'm not that crazy about the show. I'll give it a 4. Why not?
All right, so that has been the Beard Off 2012 update. So lately I've had several listeners complain about the fact that we've had no That's How Women Are. What, you don't believe me? No, it's been an outpouring of criticism. The favorite feature of the show has not been featured lately. So in order to placate these listeners, we're going to have That's How Women Are.
Yeah.
They say things that don't make any sense, and then they do things that make even less sense than the things they said that didn't make any sense. Oh, they want you to buy them fancy jewels, but when you give it to them, they say you're a fool. Whoa, 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 whoa. 'Cause that's how women are. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's how women are. Whoa, whoa, whoa.
For this week's That's How Women Are, I thought I would bring up something that has occurred to me lately. The other week I was in a bar. I was chatting to a girl who I kind of didn't know very well. And I don't think there was any sort of flirtation going on really, but maybe there was the potential for something to happen. But then she asked me what I did for a living.
No.
And I told her. I said, I do construction work. And at first she was kind of shocked because I don't seem like a construction worker, I guess. I guess that's a good thing. I don't know. And then you could just see her entire attitude towards me change. Mm-hmm. She had decided that I was no longer very interesting and not really worth talking to anymore.
Yeah.
And it just made me think about that dynamic when men are speaking to women. Warren, have you ever been interested in a girl, spoken to her, found out what she did, and then decided that based on what she did for a living, you were no longer interested in going out with her?
No, I don't think that's ever happened.
Is there anything a woman could do for a living that would make you no longer interested in dating her?
Probably a high-priced Chinese prostitute.
Like
but,
Zhang Ji?
Yeah, that's about...
But other than that...
Yeah.
That's basically me too. Like stripper, prostitute, that's probably where I draw the line. But
Yeah.
you could work in a slaughterhouse, you could work in a fish cannery, you could work at the dump. I don't care. Why would I care?
So those are the 3 most disgusting
I don't know. Can you think of worse things? I don't know.
Lawyer,
maybe. It does not even occur to me to wonder or care what a girl does for a living.
Yeah.
I might be interested if it's something that's like, oh, okay, that's cool. We'll talk about that.
A slaughterhouse, I'd love to talk about.
Yeah, that would be kind of interesting, actually. And that just, I think this plays into this evolutionary imperative that women have that they're not even aware of. Even though modern society has changed so much where basically, women in their 20s are actually making more than men in their 20s. More women are graduating from college. There's still a disparity between what women and men make as a whole, but when you look at the future, it's not going to exist anymore.
Yeah.
Probably in 10, 15, 20 years.
Yeah.
So it's not really that important what a man does for a living anymore, but there's still this imperative somewhere deep within where a woman, not every woman obviously, but they seem to think that it is important that a man be able to provide, even if that isn't necessary anymore. And so this leads to the whole thing of how men are supposedly more logical and practical, but when it comes to love, I think women are much more logical and practical.
Yeah.
They take things into account other than appearance, which is basically all that men take into account.
Or even beyond appearance, just like, things divorced from the actual person that's in front of you.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
Like we take the person. are you attractive? Can we get along, sort of? And that's basically it.
Yeah.
If you can get along with somebody and you're attracted to them, I will date you. Just a little tip for you ladies out there. Women, that's not the most important thing. And in some ways, it's actually more shallow than men. Because if you're talking about economic concerns, that has nothing to do with... Well, it does kind of have something to do with the person.
In the romantic comedy notion of shallowness, it definitely does, right?
Yeah.
Because there's always things outside of the chemistry between these two people that are keeping them apart, like maybe somebody's job or something like this. You know what I mean? And what you're always rooting for in those movies are for the two people to just realize that nothing else matters.
Right.
They just need to be together because they're meant to be together.
Right.
Maybe a man's more prone to look at things that way and be like, that's the girl I want to be with. I'll be with her regardless of her work at the slaughterhouse.
Right.
Whereas she might be like, well, he works at the fish cannery. I'm not going to date another man from the fish cannery. I'm over him. You know what I mean?
Well, that's the funny thing is, so basically men actually behave more like that romantic ideal than women do.
I completely agree with that.
Yeah. Because there are very few women who, it's always the down on his luck guy who's lost his job and he's going through some sort of horrible change. But he is a great guy. And if the woman will just realize that, and eventually at the end of the movie she does realize that. But in real life, that doesn't happen very often. Basically, either men have to perform and be what women are looking for in their clinical, practical, logical mind.
Yes.
Or women just have to stop being so shallow and start dating men who are poor.
Oh, my God.
And look like me.
Or you should be targeting women who aren't shallow.
But usually the reason women aren't shallow is because they're not very attractive. And so they can't afford to be shallow.
Well, you know what? She's giving up her dream of being with, like, a financial planner to be with a construction guy.
Yeah.
You may have to give up your dream of being with the gorgeous girl to be with a girl that's going to respect your profession.
Yeah, I'd rather not be respected.
Exactly. And she would rather not have to work her ass off.
So basically everything kind of just works the way it should.
Yes, it does.
And that's how women are.
Yeah, they like to put pretty purple panties on. And then they turn around and tell you that every little bit of thing you've ever done is always wrong. Well, they like to cry when they stub their little toe. But no, they don't cry when they tell you to go. No. Yeah, that's how women are. Yeah, I'm talking about how women are. Whoa, women are. Yeah, women are. That's how women are.
This has been the Warren and Bradley Show, brought to you by Warren Van and Bradley Victor. For podcast news and information, like the show on Facebook at facebook.com/Warren and Bradley. Follow the show on Twitter at Warren and Brad. Subscribe on iTunes and leave a review. For episode archives and episode pictures, go to warrenandbradley.com, and to contact the show, write to podcast at warrenandbradley.com. The views expressed on the Warren and Bradley Show are not necessarily those held by the hosts, Warren and Bradley, nor those of the proprietors of the website, warrenandbradley.com.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, fire!
Let's make some magic.
It is magic time. Hello, and welcome once again to the Warren and Bradley Show, episode 28. I'm one of your hosts, Bradley Victor.
I'm the other host, Warren Van.
Yes, indeed, Warren. It has been, 10 days since we last convened to record this show?
It has been quite a while.
I think it's the longest we've ever gone between, so we should have lots to talk about.
You'd think.
In the intervening 10 days. So you went, we didn't record last Sunday because you went to Eastern Waters. Grey Goose. That's not that
I don't
good.
think that's that good.
No.
What's the finest vodka available?
I have no fucking idea.
I don't know either.
Yeah.
Is there a fine vodka? I guess there is, right? There's the really like...
Yeah. With vodka, it's easy because it's just how filtered it is, basically, or how pure it is.
It's just basically alcohol, right?
Yeah. It's just when it's pure alcohol, you don't really taste anything. It's just kind of...
What about with like whiskey? Can you tell the difference between like your Jim Beam and like some Johnny Walker Blue?
Yeah. I can tell. I mean, I hate Jim Beam, but I drink it a lot because it's cheap.
Does the Johnny Walker just hurt your like throat less? Is that what makes it good?
It's the difference between like when I have Jim Beam, I'm not going to take a little glass and just sip it. I'm just going to take a shot, or I'm going to use it in mixed drinks. If I have something like Jameson or something, then I'll be able to sip that because it doesn't make me gag when I drink it. That's basically the difference on my level of sophistication with whiskey. If I drink it and gag, it's not very good, and if I drink it and go, it's okay.
Yeah, I think I've developed like a good taste for maybe hamburgers. I can like tell. You know what I mean? I can tell if I have a really good hamburger and be like, that's a fine burger.
Warren Van, the foremost hamburger. Washington, Memorial Day weekend.
I did.
How was the trip?
The reputation of Spokane was that it was kind of methy and not so nice.
Yeah.
And that turned out to be accurate.
It was.
Yeah, it's not nice. And it was, it sort of felt abandoned. Everyone looked a little bit haggard. We couldn't really find a place to eat because everything was closed on Saturday.
Weird.
It was really weird, yeah.
So, what is there like a city center, or is it all just
like
kind
a downtown
of a sprawling
area?
Like
that's where we were. We were in the sort of downtown area, which sort of looked like a big city, but there was just no one there. And we found like a sports bar and a hamburger, and some woman told us stories about drunk drivers like crashing outside the bar, and we were like, oh, this is great. Sounds like a nice town. And then the wait staff was like discussing all the children they have, and they were all very young themselves, and we got very like judgy about them, and then we left. Yeah.
So what about Walla Walla?
Walla Walla was quaint. Right? Walla Walla was actually, it was a pretty nice town. There was like ice cream shops and like places for people to drink wine and stuff. We did actually go to a winery.
Okay.
One on Memorial Day too, and that was all very classy. Looking over rolling hills, drinking like white wine, and
I've never had any Washington wines. I don't think are any good. I mean,
we produce a lot of wine now, so I guess some of them must be good.
Yeah.
I can't really tell the difference between good wine and bad wine. I don't know. It just tastes like wine to me. I like the white wine better because it's less. I don't know. I don't like the red wine flavor as much.
I don't know. I can't remember who I ever heard this from, but I completely agree in terms of... I think it was Dylan Moran, this Irish comedian, was talking about wine snobs and how his criteria for judging wine is if you take a sip and go, or if you take a sip and go, ugh. Yeah. And that's basically me, too.
Well, people like to make it more complicated than it needs to be, right?
Yeah, there's some earthy undertones and some, Well,
who's the Freakonomics guy? He did something about this years ago, and they had some wine tasting club at Harvard or something that they all considered themselves to be very intelligent about their wine tasting ability, and they did something where he switched them up and made them look like assholes, basically.
That always happens.
And they got very defensive. At a certain point, it just gets... When it gets very high end, it just gets kind of ridiculous.
Yeah.
And it just gets to be conspicuous consumption at that point.
I mean, I think you can tell the difference between like Kamchatka vodka, which comes in the big gallon screw cap bottle, and maybe like, I don't even know what good vodka. You're expert.
You know what I mean? But if you give me a couple wines, I won't be able to tell you.
Yeah. I don't drink a lot of wine. I don't drink a lot of alcohol in general, really. I mean, when I go out... there's people who sit around at home, they come home from work and they'll have their glass of scotch or something like that. I never do that. I don't drink unless I go out, and when I'm out, I'm drinking something cheap because I just want quantity over quality, and I don't really give a shit.
Yeah. But the idea of like, you see in movies or something, somebody just going home to their wood-lined like library, and somebody else sitting there in their fine leather couch, and they give them like some drink and they kind of sip it there. Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah.
I could do that, but I mean, I could be doing that with like Fresca, and I mean, it'd be the same to me. I'd just kind of be relaxing to be drinking this thing.
Well, there was a time when I had considered trying to get myself a little home bar, with like the wood paneled thing with the mirror and the decanters and stuff. I actually have one crystal whiskey decanter. Like, that'd be cool. But I never have anyone over.
Yeah.
And I never drink alone, so it'd be completely pointless.
Yeah, I guess you have to really be into entertaining to do that. And I don't like to entertain because you can't get people at your house sometimes.
I just like the idea of me sitting